Yes, I'm keeping the kazoo as our theme song because it makes me happy. Whether it's good or not, I don't care. Please don't sue us, Disney. Welcome, everybody, to episode 3 of Happiness Patrol. We've already made it to our 3rd monthly episode, and it is, shock and awe, episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I'm super excited for another episode. We're having fun, and that's the whole point of this. Is we want to bring you a show about what makes us happy, and hopefully it makes you happy as well. Does not mean we can't be critical, but we're not going to be toxic about it. So, yay. I'm not alone. So let's just bring in our panel, because we want to try and keep this to a tighter episode than we have the last couple of months. Starting with Cameron. How you doing, Cam?
Good. How are you doing?
Not bad. Also coming all the way up from Florida, Melanie. Melanie's on mute.
Terrible, Melanie. Oh my God. No, I'm looking around my room trying to figure out what I could put here that has to do with this movie, and I can't pick. But anyway, hi.
It's not that you don't have anything, it's that you can't pick. You have too much.
Pretty much. I'm looking. Anyway,
yeah. All the stuff all over the place.
Well, I mean, I got the Bad Batch stuff up there, but
it's true.
I'm trying to think of this particular film.
Keep thinking.
I will. Continue on with pleasantries.
So we bring in Scott.
Hello,
hey, Scott.
Sure, there's a Star Wars game on the wall.
Somewhere back there. There's got
probably. I think there's 1 or 2 of them. So
somewhere.
Yeah.
And of course, we've got the one and only Jess. How you doing?
Oh. I pulled a Melanie.
That's how we're going to refer to it now, as pulling a Melanie.
Yeah.
That's trend setting right there.
Yay!
Yay!
Tastemaker right here, baby.
There it is. I think we should call the episode Revenge of the Happiness.
It doesn't roll off the tongue, though.
It doesn't need to. We're revenging with happiness.
I can get behind that.
I'm okay with it, actually. I think a little happiness can go a long way on this one. So
yeah,
exactly, and that's what we're all here for. Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, Revenge of the Happiness, the 3rd of the prequels in Star Wars.
The second time we saw the last Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
And,
yes.
And not the last time we saw the last Star Wars movie.
Question. So do we do episode 4 for 4, or do we go into like Han Solo Rogue One?
Oh, that's a good question. I was going to answer that at the end, but we will do Solo next.
Oh, excellent.
Okay.
I was curious, and then we're talking about it. I was like, I'll ask. So.
Yep. No, that was.
I like Solo. Solo's great. Let's do Solo. So
yep.
Han Solo, the
Dash. No, that's next one. Next month. Next month.
Yeah.
No, we will carry on in movie chronological order.
Okay.
Which brings us to Solo first, and then Rogue One.
And we skipped Clone Wars.
Yeah, we're skipping the TV series.
Well, it was movie.
Oh, there's a movie.
Yeah, we're just doing the movies, with one notable exception. I'm calling it a movie anyway.
Okay.
And we'll deal with that come closer to the
I know
holidays.
what you're talking about. Yeah. Oh, I knew it.
No, the best part about this whole conversation is what the Star Wars fandom has been doing for like 30, 40 years, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, just like, so does this go here? Oh yeah, it goes here, and then we have all this, and then, but I know this one came out, but then we got to do this one over here, and then you do this, and then, you know.
I want the board with the red wires going everywhere.
Yeah. It's the ever-evolving way that we like to watch, and every now and then I do watch it chronologically, and it is interesting to do it that way. But I prefer a different order.
What order would that be? Now that you've opened the can.
Well, I call it saga order, which is essentially I start episode 1. Well, I'm sorry. I already got it wrong. I start Rogue One, and then A New Hope,
Mm-hmm.
Empire, and then I go back. I do episode 1, 2. I do the 2D Clone Wars cartoon, which is this movie's Andor, in my opinion. And I love it. And then I do episode 3, and then Obi-Wan Solo, and then I do Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, because that makes like a little mini Han Solo trilogy where you kind of see the Han Solo story. And then, of course, 8 and then 9.
The best part about that order, actually, if you think about it, is if you had a kid at the beginning, by the time you're done, you could go to his graduation.
Absolutely. Episode 3 also is my son's favorite of all of them. And it's the last one that I showed him, because I thought, much like Jess's parents, I thought maybe it was going to be a little bit too much for him to see some of the stuff that happens on Mustafar.
Well,
and
also,
when he finally saw it, he loved it.
On this note as well, is this was the first Star Wars to be PG-13. Like all the other ones were PG. So, and yeah, some of them because PG-13 didn't exist. Thank you, Temple of Doom. But this was the first, and I thought, like, when I saw that really stood out to me. Like, okay, we are really in for something a little more here. I always talk about the Harry Potter films growing with their audience. And I felt this is where we're at, where the next generation, this is them growing with their films. So
it's a good way to look at that.
Yeah. I did have a fun experience of introducing someone to Star Wars. And when she got to this one, so she somehow, and this is like 2 years ago this happened, she somehow missed the fact of who Palpatine is.
Okay.
In all,
Unsurprised.
so that, okay, so the order I showed her, so I do it based off of just the person. She's a very Disney happy, loves all the good feels, found family. So I actually showed her season 1 of Rebels, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, Clone Wars without the Sidious or Fives arc.
Okay.
Episode 3, and then the Fives and Sidious arc and stuff in there. But so she went through Order 66 and was confused. She also missed that. She knew nothing about Order 60. I don't know how you live on the internet like she does and not know the meme that is Order 66, but she had no clue. I felt horrible because I didn't know she didn't know, because who doesn't know in 2025? I guess it was like 2021, 22, but still. We're in the 2020s. You should know about Order 66. But I watched her absolutely devastated because she had watched the Clone Wars, so she knew Plo. She knew Ayla. She knew all these people, so she's watching when it happens with Kiadi and Plo, and we have to pause it because she's like, wait, what? Is it like that one clone in that one episode where he defected and he was like against them? And I was like, it's not just one clone. Let's just watch. And so we're having to finish Order 66 because she still hasn't seen the full extent of it. Mm-hmm. And she's like, what is happening? And I'm watching her just shut down. And it was a beautiful experience, but it was also, I feel so bad because I traumatized this poor girl.
I was gonna say it's a beautiful experience. I don't think for her. I mean, maybe for you watching it.
There might be a couple of Jedi that also wasn't a great experience for either, though. So
yeah, and she was so excited to go into the third film. She was like, I've almost graduated Star Wars school. I'm wearing my clone shirt because I love my cloney boys. Mm-hmm. And so so. She sat down and she's like, I'm wearing this shirt. I was like, okay, hold on. I've got to show you 5 so you understand what's happening. Like, it's not their fault.
It's fascinating when you finally like really dig into the like, because especially if you accuse the prequels of being like kid friendly and like cutesy, especially with the Gungans, and then you got like the droids like Roger stuff, and all of a sudden we're like, here we go. And up until Andor, I argued that the darkest moment in all of Star Wars was in Rogue One. Rogue One. No, episode 3. With the Anakin and the kids, and like it was if you needed like, you're like, huh, like, I'm pretty sure that Anakin is like, he's kind of a bad guy, but I don't think he's that bad. And they're like, here he is slaughtering kids. You're like, okay, that's unredeemable.
You're like, that's kind of that's bad.
That's the moment, right? So
that's a very it's a very impactful moment. Everyone talks about it a lot, and I do love that moment of like the lightsaber lights and what happens and they cut away. That said, I would like to see those kids put up a bit of a fight. I bet they did. They were accomplished little Jedi. I don't think they got dispatched as quickly as we think. It'd be interesting if they showed that in a
I'm picturing the like memes being like 1 Jedi versus 100 younglings.
Exactly.
Well, and the
Just
other,
like,
I think the other implication, and this is something I had noticed on Disney Plus that they've started doing, and I don't know if they do it anymore, but it was right after. Actually, I think this was The Mandalorian, maybe, where they're showing a shot of Order 66, but it was that episode happened to come out right after a school shooting. And they had a warning of like, this content could be very sensitive to relevant times right now. And so it was like, I've noticed that they've put warnings for episode 3 now, at least with ours, of like extremely like sensitive content, at least around the times if a school shooting has happened, which I think is really crazy to see the implication of the today with what that actually, I mean, what's the difference? Anakin went to school there too.
Yeah.
It's weird that the response, I guess, to as much as we can to a school shooting is, I'm going to put a warning up, not ban guns. But I don't think that's where we're at. So, it's like,
to be fair, Disney can't really ban guns, short of banning movies, and that would ruin Star
Wars.
They're pretty powerful. Yeah, they can like, they took on Florida, so like, and it's so
they're in a constant war with Florida. Yeah.
No, you said this is kind of the and now we're going somewhere movie. I really, you feel the difference in episode
the tonal
3.
shift.
Yeah, like episode 1 and 2, and I don't think I mentioned this in the previous episode, almost feel like a video game where you've got a scene of high energy and a cut scene and a scene of high energy and a cut, and any of those could be a video game. The Droid Factory,
definitely, yeah,
100% could just be a cut scene and go into a video game level. There isn't really any big video game levels, if you will, in episode 3. There's some good action sequences, don't get me wrong.
Like, and it starts with that like attack, like in the giant space battle, and it's I like that the credits roll, or the crawl comes, and then you're flying along, and then he goes over and comes down, and just like chaos.
And those
it is one of the most beautiful it is my favorite opening sequence of all films. It is just,
I do love those drums. When the drums get going, you kind of think, oh yeah, they're flying above Coruscant, and then it's like, oh, the war has come to Coruscant, and this, there's implications here. I do think I talked quickly about the 2D animated Clone Wars cartoon. It wouldn't have hurt to have some of those scenes live action in there with the fighting on the ground and Yoda, and build that up, and see Grievous take Palpatine, build up the Grievous character a bit. But it exists in one form or another.
About 4 different times canonically.
Yeah, it's very it kind of adds some gravitas to that. I will say, again, I watch a lot of different versions. I watched the HAL 9000 fan edit of Revenge of the Sith, and it's very good. It does clean up a lot of the choppiness of the rescue of Palpatine, the ray shields, which again, those ray shields would have been pretty handy on the Death Star a couple times if they existed, and things like that. Like I do kind of like how that cut kind of gets through that quicker, gets into more of these, adds all those extra scenes with Mon Mothma and Bail Organa, and kind of shows that like seeds of the rebellion growing. And now that we know there's an appetite for that after Andor, I'd love to see them. I mean, it's been 25 years, or 20 years. I'd love to see them kind of put out an extended cut or something, like a special edition of these, certainly of this one, maybe even of 2 and 1. One I wouldn't change much on, but
I mean, people would go. Lord of the Rings, everyone watches the extended versions.
Yeah, absolutely, and to have them available just on Disney Plus, I think would be great.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
The interesting thing, now that we're here, that episode 3 highlights, if I have to compare it to the 4, 5, and 6, is how this is like a two-edged sword. How good a villain Vader is, and how undercooked the villains really are in 1, 2, and 3. Like, you just talked about.
I don't know. I think by the end, the villain gets pretty well cooked.
No, but like Grievous, like if you really want to know that character, like you don't get it from the movies. Darth Maul has like 2 lines, and then and like it's just like.
I like to think that the three main villains, other than Palpatine, who's the main villain, but the 3 main apprentices, all kind of represent that piece of Darth Vader. Maul was just sheer strength, aggression, anger. Dooku is the political side, the cunning and the lies, manipulation, and then Grievous is that cyborg, the man and machine, and it fails on him. I like that. I mean, the scene, which I don't know if there's a rumor or true, but I think that scene where he becomes Darth Vader was directed by Spielberg, or at least Spielberg was on set guiding that process. Yeah, and kind of that nod to Frankenstein, and I do think like some of that intercutting with Padme giving birth to the twins, some of the best filmmaking in these early, or in the prequels anyway, and a pretty satisfying. It's funny, I don't remember my exact screening. I do know that we got the gang back together as best we could, but the one thing I do remember was sitting there going, like, just almost yelling at Obi-Wan, pick up the lightsaber. Like, I just didn't want him to leave it there for any reason. I don't know why I thought he would, but I was just like, pick up that light, pick it up. You got to bring that with you. But
it was the first movie I cried in.
First movie what?
This is the first movie I ever cried in.
Oh, wow.
And I don't usually get very emotional with films. Like, I will with books because they feel more intimate. But like films and TV shows, I don't really. But this, I remember watching it, and like, it was the "You Were My Brother" that just devastating. And it's like, you knew it was coming. Like, it wasn't a surprise, but it doesn't matter. That betrayal is just the ultimate betrayal. Like, it is just, you see the camaraderie at the very beginning, and how they're still like, the last thing he says to him is like, hey, you were right. Like, I've been messing up, but I want to be better. And he's like, you can be better. It's great. And then the next time he's just gone off the deep end. And it's just to see that type of cognitive dissonance, and to see how that, and even the older I get, the more I recognize that happens. People actually go into their own cognitive dissonance, and you're like, how are we not seeing this the same way?
You're from America. Like, it's.
Well,
like, I was saying things without saying things.
Yeah, I know, and I'm like, I can see it, and I'm just like, yeah. So.
Yeah, the way he speaks to Padme on the landing platform and stuff, it just it's upsetting.
But seeing that shift is such a big,
No.
Now, do you think I'm looking for your theories. Do you think Palpatine knew Padme had died when he said you killed her, or was that just a straight?
I think that was a straight. One of my favorite things, because I'm sure we've all heard the theory that like Palpatine siphoned her life force to give it to Vader to make him live. And one of my favorite, E.K. Johnson, she's the author that wrote the 3 Padme books and also wrote the Crimson Dawn book with Kira, couldn't remember her name, and the Ahsoka book. So she's done quite a few. She was asked about that. And she even said, she was like, I hate that people mystify childbirth as this thing of Palpatine interceding in that. She was like, she's carrying twins, which is already high risk. She's on a planet where you don't know if they know how humans function biologically.
It was a lovely hospital, but it was a mining facility.
But it had a birthing droid, which still threw me off. That the mining facility had this. It's like, oh, well, no, we have one.
Well, and maybe it wasn't a birthing droid. It was a droid that had some added programming just in case, but it really, it was outdated.
Voyager kind of thing where it's just like, I'm here if you need me.
Very cool location. I'd like to see them go back to that location, and I love that it's the birthplace of Luke and Leia. You know, I think it'd be interesting to, in a further adventures of Luke and Leia, if we ever get it, if they went back to that
and feel this weird connection. They're like, I don't know why, and then they leave, and we as the fans are like,
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I loved her take though of like, there's nothing mystical behind it. It wasn't some great power. It was just the sadness of the reality of the fragility of life. And, you know, it really is like they say she's lost the will to live, but in all actuality, did she hemorrhage? And that droid doesn't have the
I really didn't like the whole, oh, she lost the will to live. I'm like, seriously.
I think that's the droid's best explanation.
And I think that's the droid's best explanation. I think it's because George doesn't understand women.
I just don't think Coruscant had any type of prenatal care, because how do you become that far along and not realize you have 2 babies?
Especially when the Force is involved and insight.
Yeah.
I also think that she was kind of trying to keep it under wraps for as long as she could. And
because it could be that they could, because we don't know the laws of Coruscant, maybe whatever facility they go to, they check the database for the DNA, and every person on Coruscant has been entered, so they'd know the father. Awesome. So there's, you know, that's a crazy theory I just thought of right now, but
I just think Coruscant
very possible better. Because they were doing everything they could to kind of keep it as secretive and as private. And I know she kept saying, let's go back to Naboo to have the babies and stuff.
She was just going holistic.
Yeah, and then it was a water.
She was nesting.
Yeah.
I do think him choking her probably did more damage.
And
she possibly could have.
And he knew, and if I recall correctly, Palpatine knew she was dead, because as we're learning, yes, it was him being built and everything, and we know that we have the symbolism between her, the birth, and him being built. But then once he comes up and off the actual platform, how soon do we cut to her funeral? Because there could have been a time gap between him being built and the thing on his head, and then him actually being pushed up. And then they were just showing us for the
cinematography, which was beautiful.
Right. But then again, I mean, Palpatine knows what's going on. Mustafar, he sees the droids and all that, so he probably was like, "Oh, he choked her. She's dead. I'm just gonna play this."
Yeah. So I'm sure he's aware of that.
Okay, so.
But I think it was a mental manipulation tactic.
Oh, absolutely was. He's like, "Oh, you killed her in your anger. Don't you remember?" I was like, "Oh, look at you gaslighting."
Yeah, get him nothing to live for. So that
I think he would have kept, even if Padme had been alive, he would have told him that, and he would have kept her from ever being found by him. Mm-hmm. So I fully buy that it would be a lie.
I think he was. I mean, the whole time he was trying to kill Padme, because she had having every person, every assassin trying to kill her. So I think that was just Palpatine knowing, if I can kill her.
Well, I think that was because she was getting too close to Mina Bonateri.
Oh yeah.
And she was trying to stop the vote,
The war.
vote,
Yeah.
which he needed.
But I think Scott was
as
going
we've
to say
learned
something.
I was like, as we've learned also in just Bad Batch and other things, how Palpatine everybody else is playing checkers and that man is playing chess and he is like 18 steps ahead of you. He already knew what your plan was. Oh, I've already got a strategy how to work my way out of this one.
I know, and I kind of feel bad for him too, because I think he had this idea that, this Anakin is going to be my big hope, and then he ends up being kind of a half cyborg, barely alive, back to tank for a long time. And I think Rogue One, that was one of my takeaways from Rogue One was I don't think everyone in the universe really has interacted with Darth Vader much. So I think he's kind of still on Mustafar, still recovering, still kind of in the shadows, and really only like Leia knew about him, obviously, on the Tantive 4, and knew that he was brazen and
The interesting thing about Rogue One versus Episode 3 is because you have the memes of the no kind of thing, right? And then the next time we interact with Vader is at the end of Rogue One, where he he's in there like interspersed, but really like the scene where he's just like taking names and numbers and just like dispatching these people.
The hallway.
Yeah, the hallway. It's so good.
Anakin turning off the breathing apparatus so he could sneak up.
Star Wars is a movie about hallways. I've always said that.
I just think Anakin's dramatic.
So, but like the whole thing, like you go from this such a not a great moment, and I mean more like cinematically, and just like you got this character in the lowest place, and then really the next time we see him kind of throughout the movie, but at the end of Rogue One, I believe that is the person Leia is scared of. Like, I don't believe he is scared of asthmatic Anakin at the end of 3. Like, I just don't believe that. But by the time we get here, I'm like, and we're seeing him just like handily dispatch these guards, like these trained people, just like they're nothing.
And that's why I like new content of showing Vader, using him sparingly, and giving us more backstory of he is unstoppable monster.
Vader.
That's it.
Vader
I want him
the same way Bruce was in Jaws, where
I don't need to see him. He's just unstoppable.
And and Lucas knows this, and you see it back to the kid murdering moment. He could have shown that he had the money. He could have done it, but he doesn't. And Hitchcock says, "We will always build something better in our minds than what I could show you." And he knew it, and he turns the lightsaber on, cut, and we all know like child murder in time.
I didn't even know how. So like, I grew up with OT Vader, and like Vader's Vader. Like it's Anakin, it's Vader. I never like associated fear with Vader, but I did Disney's The Void, the virtual thing.
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you, when you've got nothing on you and Vader is coming at you, and you're like, I got a gun. What am I gonna do? And he's like literally coming at you. I was like, this is terrifying. And I didn't realize how terrifying until I was like right there, and I was like,
Han Solo had a gun in Episode 5, and that did nothing.
Nothing. I'm sitting there looking at my gun, and I'm like, I don't know what you expect from me.
Play Jedi Fallen Order or Jedi Survivor. They do the same thing.
That's over there.
Very sparingly shows up, unstoppable monster. You realize I am not going to get through this, and they make him.
And it's great.
That's difficult, and
Vader. And
he doesn't technically lose either time.
Vader should be. So in my mind, Vader is what the Death Star is before the Death Star, where it's like, hey, you're gonna want to do what we say, or we're gonna sick the Vader on you. And in just the same way as he did with Leia and Alderaan, like, hey, tell me what I want, or you're gonna get the Death Star. Like right, that kind of like this menacing presence of the brinkmanship. Like, you will fall in line, or you will get the Vader. Like, fear and dead men is what you will have around you, right? Like it's.
I also like the naming scene when Palpatine bestows the name of Darth Vader on him. He kind of takes a long thought, and he could come up with any name for him. And of course, Vader meaning father in German or whatever language they're substituting there. And the idea of like he knows the struggle that's going on inside this guy. He knows what Padme is going through and all this, and he's just like, okay, you're Darth father, and that's going to be your journey now. And I think that's a great scene. And even the scene where Palpatine finally like goes hard at Mace Windu and that whole, you know, it's clear from Anakin's point of view that like, yeah, the Jedi were trying to assassinate this guy, and he does a very good job of playing the victim for a moment, and you can see it all wheel together.
And there's a really interesting moment as well, which is last time we really saw Yoda fight, he's pretty much doing pretty good against Dooku, but then you have Palpatine literally throwing the Senate at him. like literally, and he's having troubles. So you always had that like Yoda would have kicked his butt. I was like, no, Yoda would not have. This is the I am the Sith. Like, and it's you. Yeah. So he's like soldier and politician. Like he really is like. And I say this because you have this guy, and Vader is still what you're scared of. Like it's like, and that says, I think that says a lot, like how good Vader is as a bad guy. Like
that's one thing I remember from watching it in cinemas on opening night, midnight release, because I do remember this, was that Yoda scene when he walks in and he smacks the two guards. Everyone cheered, and then when he goes surprised, everyone died laughing, and like the energy behind that, because they knew it was about to go down. Like that was just the most electrifying energy. And the gasps when he throws Yoda in that moment, because I think that's really the first time we see Sidious do anything Sidious.
Or Yoda take a hit.
Yoda
take a hit.
Well, because this is after he's thrown Mace Windu out the window.
He has,
so
but like that
taking care of the other.
It feels different.
But even then, it's like I really wish George had stuck to what the original plan of having the stunt double for Palpatine, so that the fight against the four Jedi, Mace and the other three, if you can go on YouTube and find some of those behind the scenes of them practicing, that was some amazing choreography. And for me to see it, and you only get to see that Palpatine fighting kind of thing now in the Clone Wars.
Close-up shots.
It was amazing. And then it wasn't until like the day of or the day before shooting that he was like, Ian, I'm going to have you just go ahead and fight them. And even McDermott was like, what? I'm a Shakespearean actor. I've done some stunt training, but not. But no. And I think that really did fail. I really wish that there was more of that fight. But
I want to push back against that, actually.
Maybe even in editing too, like just to cut it down a little quicker and not see the extent of the pokesy.
Him spinning on that chair.
Yeah.
The thing that launched a million gifts.
Done in a cut, even if you can't use the footage.
Yeah, the spinning Palpatine feels like Mary Poppins Leia, but it's
which I love, and we'll get to that in anyway.
Oh, you and I are going to disagree on that one.
Oh, yeah.
But
trust me. Wait. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I like that the fight. He feels. If you make him capable of fighting, then when he starts to like, I like that he feels like he's like throwing dirt in the eyes of them, like this, like underhanded, like I am behind the scenes pulling the strings. I'm not meant to be on the front lines. I can, it happens, but that's not where my strength is. I'm here being like, I'm thinking 14 moves ahead on like 47 different planets.
Which would be great if they didn't canonically say that the reason is because Palpatine has mastered every single lightsaber form, and he is just such a master sabersmith that he was just toying with it. Like, and that's canon. That is the canon explanation for that
them
thing.
explaining
So like I'm like
George changing his mind on
yes,
the day.
Yep.
Which I absolutely do not like.
There is a
because
good
I would be okay with what Scott's saying of like there like because sometimes the mind is more dangerous than the sword. You know, in this moment, he doesn't need a sword because he literally has 2 armies.
Well, he's already won. By the time he's shown up, it's too late. It's an epilogue to a tragedy. It's already done.
Yeah.
And like so he's just there to like just like pretty much like, hey, I see you guys came to celebrate with me. You're gonna tear down my party. Well, screw you, go away, and now I'm gonna go finish my party. Like that's what it is. Between all of them, Yoda is the best hope we had at this point, and he's got nothing. And I think that is, and I think that moment only works if you've seen the other 3 to know that Yoda is this like Yoda is the yin to Palpatine's yang.
Yeah.
In theory, like the behind the scenes Jedi.
This is why I think that the prequels are best enjoyed after at least seeing 4 and 5. I think there's too many things in it where it's only interesting because you already know.
I think
if you just watch them in order, it's one way to watch it, but when you watch them in order, you don't really know why you're looking at somebody.
I think that's why episode 1 works. Or like if you hadn't seen any Star Wars and wanted, episode 1 works, I think, on its own because it is a complete story. The same way as the Matrix 1 kind of is a complete story. We don't really need the other ones. You don't need, you can understand who these people are and don't need context. But when you start in 2, you probably no 2. I think you need to understand a little what's going on behind the scenes, right? And 3 for sure, especially as the glue between 2 and or like 1 and 2 and 4 at the time. You really need some more context than this movie gives, or the other ones have given. Why is the green frog that we just saw in the last one take on Dooku? Why is Ketamine Beyblade Yoda the best hope? And you like, for you're like, oh, it's because he's a tactician and he's like really good at fighting. We saw Dooku, but then when you see 4, 5, and 6 and see how much more Yoda really is as a complete character, that I think makes that fight with Sidious so much better. Like it layers of context, and it's really like, and also it gives a lot to why Yoda's like, I'm just going to go. I'm going to go sit on Dagobah.
Yeah,
and
that is the only way.
I hate that so much.
I love it. I love it.
Well, again, I keep watching these other versions, and I really do enjoy in the HAL 9000 cut. Right before Bail Organa interrupts his meditation, they do pop in a Qui-Gon voiceover where he tells him, "Come to Dagobah. We need," and I believe they steal it from Clone Wars. I think they steal it from the audio clip
from season 6.
It just works so well there, because then when you see him say, "This is what we're going to do. We're going to separate these babies. Obi-Wan, go to Tatooine. I have training for you. I'm going to Dagobah." He doesn't say it, but this is in his, I'm going here. We can't solve this problem right now. And that's come up a few times, where they say, even earlier in the movie when they're faced with ray shields, he says, "I say patience. We wait and the opportunity will present itself." And, it takes 18 years, but they know that they have these kids out there, and they know that if there's still good in Anakin, it's going to be the kids that pull it out of them. I also watched the Patterson cut of the Obi-Wan series, which is a simple idea. They just take the Obi-Wan series and cut it into a 2-hour, 20-minute movie, and it works quite well. It cuts out some of the goofiness and really focuses. And there is some great stuff, Vader stuff, where he is that shark from Jaws, and you don't really see him, but he's there, and what he's capable of. And then I watched Neon Noir, which is it's a cut of all 3 prequels set to all as one movie. It's all set to electronic music. which for some reason really works with Star Wars. I didn't expect it. And it's
I'm just like, John, how dare you say this on John Williams' Revenge of the Sith?
It's like 80s, it's like drive, like 80s kind of electronic music. And then it's very moody. It's a lot of use of voiceover and moody, and it actually ends with, you know, Vader coming up and on the voiceover, I'll call you Darth Vader, and then it ends with, you know, hit the credits. And I do kind of like how they kind of do like a tonal cut. I think it's something that George Lucas probably would have liked, because he does like kind of experimental tonal cuts, almost like a Terrence Malick version of Star Wars. And it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay until the episode 3 Revenge of the Sith portion. Then it really hits its stride, and it's worth watching. Neon Noir, it's called.
Odd thought while you were chatting.
Rambling.
No, chatting.
No, picking it up.
Is Dagobah Anakin and is Coruscant Vader?
I think Dagobah is the opposite of.
Well, so Coruscant is this
machine where Luke was.
Yeah, no, but it's machine. Like when you see it's a giant planet of like mech and like whatever. And then you start with episode 1 on a very organic, very, you know, water, and we work together, avatars and yada yada, whatever, right? And then as the episode 1, 2, and 3 go, we get more mechanical. We get more, and Vader gets
Mustafar.
And all of a sudden Yoda goes, I need to get back to nature, man. And the only really mechanical things on Dagobah when we see it is R2-D2, X-Wing, and whatever the crap that Luke's brought with him, plus some lights in. But even Yoda's hut is made of like rock and like
Yoda the hippie.
Yeah. Like it's what Dagobah represents, like
strange place to find a Jedi Master.
Humanity, like the core of nature and what the Force is. And imagine how many metachlorians are in every rock on that planet.
I think that the cave, you know, the dark side cave, is a main reason why he's there, or at least
I'm just throwing it. But like, I never thought about
that's how he hid there, you know, because there was enough dark side to offset his.
Well, because at least the way I'm picking up what you're putting down is, or Scott, is that it's not necessarily a lore take; it's a stylistic metaphor take. Which is kind of
talks about bookmarks, right?
Things.
Like bookends.
Yeah.
And like, so you start with a very organic Anakin, and you end with a very not organic Anakin. Well, and then you start with a Yoda on a very non-organic planet, and we end with Yoda on a very organic planet. Like it's and like just as Anakin gains power, and Yoda really is losing power, like. And not just physically, I mean just in general, right? Like losing control. Order 66, the clones, all that stuff. Like that's he's whatever order he knew is being pulled away strand by strand by strand. Now he goes somewhere, he's like, I might be able to center myself again. Right. So
this is where they talk about, you know, maybe we were wrong about that prophecy, and maybe where, you know, what we were talking about in episode 2, you know, maybe, you know, it's time to tell the Senate we're losing our powers, or that our powers are, you know, shifting. And I think there's a lot going on, but kind of behind the scenes of the Jedi Order, in order to make this whole turn believable and possible.
I think it's a beautiful story of that piety, of like when you have stringent rules, because I love looking at the difference between like how the Jedi code starts off as these, like, it's more like the pirate code. They're more like guidelines. It's like emotion is not supposed to be pushed completely away. You're supposed to not allow your actions to function, but you're allowed to have emotions. You're allowed to have an attachment. When it comes to the attachment, I always have said it's Gamora and Star-Lord. That is the perfect example of being able to love something but not be attached. When it comes to, is it the whole fate of the world versus my love for you, we have to choose the fate of the world. And kind of Luke in Legends goes that direction too. Like, he gets married, and that's what no attachment means. And that's what it's always meant to mean. But once again, you stick with an order that's like, oh, well, this one person screwed up, so we need to make this like a hard rule. And it's like, the longer that they have that power, the more they have those hard rules, and they're like, oh, well, we had this person that misinterpreted the code, so like just no emotions and no attachments whatsoever. And it just kind of, you've seen it reach the point where they have backed themselves into a corner, and they are their own worst enemy because of that.
And that brings in really when Padme says, hey, are we still the good guys?
Are we the very thing that we've set out to destroy? Yes,
exactly. And that hits really differently in today's real world climate. Is you're trying, we're doing the right thing. Are we still doing the right thing?
Are we? Yeah.
Are we on the right side again?
There's that scene. I think it's the Michael and Webb show or something like that, and they're all like, it's the Nazis.
Oh, are we the baddies? Mitchell.
They have skulls and everything. And it's like, are we the baddies? Like it's like, at what point, like
it's a skull, a human skull.
It's especially like, maybe he's hidden everything away really from like the prying eyes, but like, there's not a lot of good stuff going on, like in the name of like the like Galactic Republic. Like it's, we're stomping on baddies, and they're like, oh, they're only robots. That doesn't matter. They're like, well, we're getting a couple like organic species in here too. They're like, I guess, break some eggs, make some omelets, and then
but
eventually
it's also a beautiful show of how, the rise of fascism, of how it's not done all at once. It's little digestible, and it's like, oh, you're not pushing back here? Okay, well, here's another piece. Right? Oh, you're not pushing back here? Okay, well, what if it was, it's like, oh, you have no issues killing all these droids? So what if they're clones? Is that okay? Or they're not people, they're clones, right?
And then the entire time making sure your people think that they're safe and secure because of the decisions and the power that you've bestowed upon someone.
I got a question.
Palpatine's speech when he is, I have become mauled and because of them, and and they replay it in Bad Batch. I can't. Every time I rehear that, it is just, my heart sinks, because we know the truth, and we know that everyone is buying what he's saying.
Well, I mean, they even went like, wow.
No, go ahead.
Or the show.
Bad Batch. She's going. I brought up the
clone. The Palpatine of how he dismantles the clone. That at least they were able to show the dismantling the clone army, and then showing off how they were going to bring in the stormtroopers, which I really love that, to be able to go, okay, we're done with episode 3. We're going to New Hope, and now you have nothing but stormtroopers.
And what happens to the senators who stand up for clone rights? Sorry, I'm soapbox.
But then the only time you ever hear is Luke's mentioning, oh, you fought in the Clone Wars, and how it's like, nobody knows what Jedi are really. Nobody knows what
Why would you?
Clone Wars were. And I'm like, bro, this has been like not even 20 years. We're like at 18 years. What the heck?
Which is how brilliant that is.
Yeah, they were sold that it was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's very believable when Han Solo doesn't know about the Jedi. Totally makes sense, because it was told that it was a lie, and that they were just trying to infiltrate. They were just trying to take over. I could see that happening.
Well, and we see how fast. I think it's such a brilliance to George to be able to have written that prior to the internet, and seeing how fast the public moves on from news and forgets. And he wrote that prior and during the genesis of the internet, really. I'm going to call it the genesis of the internet.
People who are history buffs.
70s. Like, he probably had this mapped out a little bit in 75 when he was, the Vietnam War and even like the War Measures Act and stuff. This is all Canadian politics that we grew up with. That we learned all about, and so I remember specifically seeing like, oh, this is Canadian politics on, and the fall of Rome and other things that
Yeah.
really
history
the rise of
is
Rome
cursed to repeat itself.
Yeah, exactly, and that's that's why like everyone says The Simpsons predicts things. They don't predict things. They just read a
Follow
history.
history.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sorry,
Scott, you had one last thing.
I have two things.
Okay.
One, 20 years ago, I feel like this conversation would have went very different. I want to point out how the fandom's interaction with George has evolved ever since Disney took over. Let's be honest here. Two, we talked about, I'm going to go back a little bit, and we talked about like the illusion of security and safety, right? And the first thing that popped in my mind is, how like you always see like the senators and everyone get on like transports and go plant to plant. Do they make them take off their shoes for the illusion of safety? Like, is there a TSA? Like
they've got
like,
more advanced droids.
Yeah.
I'm just like throwing. That's the first thing that popped in my mind is the illusion of safety. I'm like, well, this plane's going to be fine. I took off my shoes. Like it's just like
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
and not all airports do that. It's airport to airport.
Last time I flew, because I was wearing Vans, like the short Vans, they're like, yeah, you don't have to take those off. But if I was wearing like the high top Vans, they were like, yeah, you got to take those off.
Travel with kids, they don't make you take your shoes off.
Yeah.
TSA free, baby.
But I have to take my hair down because it's too thick. So
First time I've ever been pulled over for my laptop as I'm flying. I have my new laptop. I left the like screen protector cloth in there, so when I close it, it's there. I got pulled over and they're like, we want to see that thing, and I was like, okay. And they opened it up and they ran like a drug thing over it.
Yeah.
To be like, is this like LSD or like acid on the little end? And I was like, man, we'll be fine. But I have flown with laptops for 20 plus years now, and this is the first time I've ever like, I was like, it did not protect. Like it's so like it's yeah. On that note, just
on that note,
I'm just picturing like fives being like, excuse me, sir, can you take off your shoes?
Yeah.
Like it's
I want that comic. I want that little comic strip.
Yeah. Anakin and Padme flew as
just like
refugees once. I wonder what the experience was flying as refugees as opposed to, what did they call it? They called it like registered travel.
Yeah.
Right. So there probably is different levels.
And then runs it through, and in the X-ray machine, you just see like a lightsaber in his shoe. Like you're like,
what is just hide it in R2.
Yeah.
On that note,
we don't all get to fly with R2.
We don't all get to fly with R2.
One of the Muppet performers, I won't say which Muppet performer, but one of the Muppet performers used to cram his Muppet's head with cocaine, and whenever he got to security, he would just pull out the Muppet and be like, "Oh, look at this!" and everyone would freak out and take pictures. And they'd forget all about the fact that, that's how you get through security. Take them up.
It was one of the. It was one of the band. We know it was. Like I'm going with that. I won't say.
Okay. And on that note,
what makes you happy?
We know what makes Scott happy now.
No way Animal has that much like energy without a little help, if you know what I mean.
He's got big cocaine energy for sure.
We're gonna need a warning on this one.
Oh, if I get flagged by YouTube, oh my goodness.
Like George Lucas, we've bookended it.
It rhymed. It's like poetry.
It's poetry.
I'm scared to do this, but where can we find you, and what's one thing that's making you happy?
Me first? Oh, sweet. I am just going to speak off the cusp, mostly because this is when we're recording this. If you've watched the other two, this past weekend, there was a massive movement in I sometimes refer to as my meth neighbors below us, but sorry, sometimes
I'm not saying that's incorrect.
I'm just saying. I like how the people from Florida are like, yeah, you're not wrong. But it pleases me. It gives me so much happiness that when the equivalent of like Dumb and Dumber Palpatine is trying to do what he does, that there's such a large pushback, that there's a lot of people who are like, no, this is wrong, and that gives me hope, a new hope maybe. And spoilers for War. Oh no, I guess we're doing Han Solo next. But
in 3 episodes.
A lot of happiness. The other one is Dave's coming up, so I'm going to see Dave over the weekend. I'm looking forward to that. Woo! My mom was just here over the weekend. That was fun. She drove 12 hours, brought the dogs. That was fun. Like, it's honestly, sometimes I think we get weighed down by the heavy stuff. And every once in a while you realize that, like, you know, like, find your own little Dagobah, recenter, and, you know, the world's not so bad. So
there we go. And Melanie, what? Oh, Scott, where can we find you, Scott?
You can find me in Edmonton, Alberta.
And on Breakfast Scotch National.
Breakfast Scotch National. I just wrote an article that's going to come out. About which Saturday morning comic strip from the newspaper would help you bury a body. Warning or spoilers, it's not Kathy. So,
all right. And Melanie, where can we find you, and what's something that's making you happy besides that drink?
I can barely sip this drink. Anyway, you can find me at Pieces of Melee or at Diamond Tech Crafts, CRAFTS, to see stained glass fun stuff. Kind of to piggyback on Scott, it was attended a No Kings protest in ye old St. Petersburg.
Fantastic.
And and again, that's part of our constitutional right. Whether you're supposed to be out there with our free speech,
for now,
then yell and scream and be loud. You're allowed to. Don't block traffic, and that's what makes me happy. Is the people I was with didn't block traffic, didn't brandish firearms, and the most happy part that I love with my people is that you take all your grievances and you switch them into, you move them into comedy in sign form. I love that so much. Just all the people who were making the best, funniest, maybe some crass. That's okay. We will go blue with humor. But the signs were just funny. And it was just a good, happy time.
Need is our Charlie Chaplin, the dictator moment. Like this, like comedy will win always. Always, at the end of the day, comedy will win. And it's sometimes it might be me telling a joke as I'm marched off to the gulag, but I will feel like I'm winning. So
everyone was smiling and happy, and no one was angry, shouting. And I mean, yeah, we're angry, but it was constructive, at least in my little neck of the woods. And there was quite a few thousand people there, which was awesome. And again,
excellent.
Peaceful, happy, let's have fun.
Perfect. Cam, where can we find you, and what's something that's making you happy?
Yeah, I'm around. I'm on Letterboxd. I've been watching a lot of the Pressburger Powell movies from the 40s, Colonel Blimp and all those. I've been going on a bit of a run of them. They're great. The thing that's making me the happiest right now, forever grateful to the Florida Panthers for beating the Edmonton Oilers in the Stanley Cup Final for the second year in a row. And it's a beautiful thing. And it just, our long nightmare is finally over. And I'd rather have a Trump third term than a Oilers Stanley Cup win.
You know what? ABC, anybody but Calgary, I'm glad for Florida.
Maybe not, but still, that makes me very happy. And of course, my wife and family, and it's just, everything makes me happy. I'm a happy guy. I'm always the happy guy, right? That's why I'm here.
Which is good. Exactly. We want to be happy. Jess.
Sorry. Is that the dog from Fraggle Rock above you?
That's Sprocket. Sprocket makes me happy. That's a doozer.
Yay!
That's a 80s lunchbox. My brother-in-law got me Fraggle Rock. Fraggle Rock makes me happy, of course. I got my
Down at Fraggle Rock.
Nice.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Jess, where can we find you, and what is making you happy?
Song Swan Cosplay. I'm on Facebook and Instagram for that. I haven't posted a lot recently, but I've got some really cool stuff that I have posted in the past. And what's making me happy? Everything. We have been rolling out. So I work with a nonprofit, Jedi, or it's not just Jedi. I'm a Jedi. Saber Guild. So we are a costume group that does charity work. We've got Kids and Family coming up in Florida at the end of August. So this might premiere before then, I think.
This will go up in August.
August? Before the 23rd?
Yes. First Thursday of August.
So at the end of this month, August, we're going to be doing a show and performing for kids and teaching them how to use the Force. And we have just rolled out like our training program that I've been working on documenting and getting rolled out. So that's exciting. And we're learning hand-to-hand combat, or I'm teaching it actually, for stage combat on Saturday. We're doing a big workshop with everyone to learn how to throw a punch and see how that translates to the Force. Fun fact.
Ooh.
So that's making me happy.
Very cool.
Punching things.
And I've seen some of you guys' performances, so and it's already top notch. So I can't wait to see what this does.
Thanks.
Dave.
Yes.
What's making you happy?
What's making me happy? You are making me happy. The four of you and everybody at home are making me happy.
Aww.
I'm so glad that we're up to
Zappy.
episode 3 of this. Seriously though, I'm happy that we can get to do this. That you guys are available and everybody's hopes and wants to watch it. That really does make me happy. On top of that, I'm going up to see Scott this weekend, playing some quad ball, formerly Quidditch.
I love it.
By the time this airs, the Quad Ball World Cup will have finished in Brussels. I will have been there.
Ooh.
So I'm excited for that. And as for where you can find me there, but it's too late for this episode. You can find me online, of course, here, youtube.com/@happinesspatrolshow, and on my gaming channel, youtube.com/therathole.ca, as well every week on The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS, and usually Spilt the Geek Tea on Sundays. So I'm all over the place, and you can find me everywhere. Wow! Because heaven forbid I should take time off for self-care or something.
What Dave doesn't tell you is Dave is like metachlorians, and so he's everywhere, all around us.
He's in our cells.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, I was going to say he's like Nick.
I was like, not going there.
I was going to say he was like Nick Fury because he brought together our Avengers group.
Oh,
there we go.
Actually, it was funny because when you were talking about the Gamora Star-Lord thing, it's very similar because like he has his like flirt with the dark side when they're fighting. Spoiler: they're fighting Thanos, and he like loses the emotion and goes like, "How dare you!" And then he realizes from that, and then later on he loses Gamora, and now he goes, "No, I heart first, and it didn't work out. I need to burn first."
I use that moment as such a good teachable. I teach Jedi. It's fine, but teachable moment of like what healthy attachment is when in regards to like you don't destroy the world for the person you love, like, and there should be an understanding. But how his emotions control him and the difference between processing and it's great.
This sounds like a season 2 conversation building.
Yeah. I will say that Nick Fury, I'm sorry, Nick Fury did the same thing as Mace Windu. They both destroyed. They both had the infiltration under their noses the whole time. I think it's Samuel Jackson. He's the real reason
No.
that S.H.I.E.L.D. fell and the Jedi Order fell.
Never
And
once
the plane fell with all the snakes.
Never once was there any infiltration under David Hasselhoff's nose. Not once.
So that being said, no, we're dropping David. We're stopping at David Hasselhoff.
David Hasselhoff.
I'm putting this thing up. I'm putting this thing up. I'm
Where's
gonna
your
blow up my kazoo now. Don't sue us, Disney.